Cold has ended more wars than bullets. That's not poetry, that's physics. In World War II, entire offensives stalled not because armies ran out of weapons, but because they ran out of heat. And buried inside that brutal reality was a heating trick so simple, so efficient, that modern engineers still do a double take when they hear it. One brick. No fire roaring all night, no visible smoke, yet bunkers stayed warm for hours. This wasn't comfort. This was survival science. This story matters because it exposes a kind of intelligence we've mostly forgotten. Not high-tech, not flashy, just ruthless efficiency under pressure. Exactly the kind of wisdom this channel exists to preserve. World War II forced the Soviet military to fight in environments that punish mistakes instantly. Sub-zero temperatures, frozen ground, long nights. Standard field heaters were noisy, fuel-hungry, and easy to spot. Flames meant smoke. Smoke meant detection. Detection meant artillery. So, Soviet engineers flipped the problem. Instead of asking how to make more fire, they asked how to keep heat longer. That shift, honestly, changed everything. They focused on thermal mass, the ability of a dense object to absorb heat and release it slowly over time. Bricks, stone, and compact earth were perfect for this. Cheap, available, durable, and most importantly, silent. The result was a heater that, well, barely looked like a heater at all. At the core of this system was a single dense brick or stone placed inside a small enclosed chamber. That brick was heated intensely for a short time, using a quick-burning fuel source. Once the brick reached peak temperature, the flame was extinguished completely. No fire, no glow, no smoke. The brick then radiated heat steadily for hours. This wasn't magic. It was physics weaponized. A dense object heated to a high temperature releases energy slowly and evenly. That meant a bunker, trench shelter, or underground room could stay warm through the night without burning fuel non-stop. Western engineers initially dismissed reports of this system as exaggeration. One brick couldn't possibly heat a room. But, tests proved otherwise. In tight, insulated spaces, a single heated mass could raise temperatures enough to prevent hypothermia, frostbite, and equipment failure. Modern heaters, they rely on continuous energy input, whether it's electricity, gas, or liquid fuel. If you cut the supply, well, the heat just disappears. But the Soviet one-brick heater, it didn't care if the fuel ran out after just 10 minutes. Once the brick was charged with heat, it basically became a battery. Another advantage was invisibility. Traditional heaters, they produced all sorts of telltale signs: smoke plumes, heat shimmer, and noise. But this system, it went dark almost immediately. From the outside, the bunker looked cold and abandoned. But from the inside, soldiers stayed alive. It was safer, quieter, and honestly, brutally efficient. Here's the part that rarely gets mentioned. The brick was never alone. Soviet designs often embedded the heated brick into earthen walls or placed it near compacted soil surfaces. Earth itself became part of the thermal system. Once warmed, the surrounding mass amplified heat retention dramatically. This wasn't accidental, it was doctrine. After World War II, energy became cheap. Oil flowed, electricity spread, efficiency stopped being a survival requirement and became, well, just an economic one. Systems like this were labeled primitive and, quietly shelved. Engineers today call it passive heating. The Soviets called it Tuesday. This knowledge didn't vanish because it failed. It vanished because it made centralized systems less necessary. And, centralized systems don't like competition from a brick. This isn't nostalgia, it's a reminder. Real preparedness isn't about stacking gear, it's about understanding fundamentals. So, let's talk about heat storage, energy timing, and, environment control. The one-brick heater, really shows us that complexity isn't strength. Understanding is. In a crisis, the best tool is, honestly, often the one that keeps working after the fuel is gone, the power is cut, and the noise has stopped. That's frontline wisdom. Wisdom from the front lines isn't about glorifying war. It's about extracting the hard-earned lessons paid for in blood and cold nights. This heater wasn't clever for clever's sake. It was built because failure meant death. And that's why it still matters. Because the future doesn't always collapse with explosions. Sometimes it collapses quietly. Power outages, supply chain failures, weather extremes. And when that happens, the people who understand basics win, not because they're smarter, because they're prepared. A single brick, heated once, keeping soldiers alive through the night while the world froze outside. That's not just a clever trick. That's a mindset, one that values efficiency over excess, silence over spectacle, results over appearances. If this kind of forgotten frontline wisdom matters to you, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who still thinks survival is about gadgets. And stay sharp, because the past still has a lot to teach us.